Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CK Picks. And today I will be going over week 0 recap of my picks I gave out on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, I believe. And also, we will be going over my NFL future picks for the upcoming 2025-2026 NFL season. So, we will be starting off with my picks for week 0. And the first game I had was Kansas State -3. And as you all know, that game was played in Ireland. And I did not know that it was going to be downpouring at that game. And I was like, oh boy, we are in a game where it's going to be a doozy for both sides. Kansas State, Iowa State. So, reason being I picked Kansas State -3 was I liked Kansas State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, more than Carson Beck for Iowa State. I only say that because Carson Beck had 2 receivers for Iowa State who both got drafted in the NFL this past year. So I'm like, okay, both his weapons are gone. And I don't know how his upcoming receivers who are in the lineup now are going to be playing in this game. And Avery Johnson had his talent coming back from last year. Same coach. And they had Dylan Edwards at running back, who's pretty dynamic in the run game and special teams when it comes to punt returns and stuff like that. And he got hurt, I believe, on the first punt. Or he had an ankle injury and he didn't return in that game. So that kind of didn't help out with Kansas State with the running game, obviously. But for this game, like I said in my other video I posted on my Instagram at CKPicks22, I said at first this game was going to be kind of slow because, both teams are going to be filling each other out, but I also didn't know it was going to be raining as well. But both defenses actually were playing great. They were both shutting down the passing game, even though the passing game was a little tough in those kind of weather conditions for this game. And the rush defenses were both, really good. I think Kansas State, they only allowed 2.4 yards a carry for this game. And, they rushed it. Iowa State rushed it for 46 times. So you think in your head, we're rushing the ball only for 2 yards a carry. Why not just try some play action, get our tight ends involved in a little short passing game? But they didn't really do that. He only threw, I think, only 9 passes in short yardage throws. So I was like, I don't know who's calling the plays or whatnot, but I was a little confused on the offense end. But the defense was playing great too. Forced, turnovers, stopping Kansas State on fourth downs, which allowed their offense to score and at the end of the game ended up winning the game because they were able to get those fourth down stops and give themselves some good field position on the offensive end. And Iowa State ended up losing by 3, so that was obviously that pick did not win for this game. So I was like, okay, but I think overall it was still a great game, great first game for college football. Excited for both sides, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming games this upcoming week 1. So that's we'll talk about that game. And so the next game I picked was the Sam Houston West Kentucky game, which my pick was over 61 points total. And on my little recap of my video, I said that both teams aren't going to play, much defense, so it's going to be a lot of scoring, and that's what ended up happening. West Kentucky, I think they started out a little slow, but then, around halfway through the first quarter, started the second quarter, that's when their offense started to steamroll, get in the rhythm, and, getting some stops on defense and slowing down Sam Houston a little bit, which ended up covering the score, which, the final score was 41-24, which ended up being 65 total points. So the 61 did cover in that pick. thankfully hit. So that was a pretty good game for West Kentucky, and they got the dub. So that's that's all that matters at the end of the day, just winning games. No matter how you play, it's all about winning. And the last game I have is Hawaii Stanford, and my pick for that game was Hawaii -2.5. And at first, Stanford was looking pretty strong in the first quarter and a half, and Hawaii was was a little slow because they have a freshman quarterback starting for the first time, so how freshmen usually play. They get a little jitters, they get little butterflies in the stomach because first game on TV, so for them, I think the coach was really just trying to get his quarterback comfortable, short yard passes, get the running game involved, which they did. And I was a little worried because I believe in the second quarter, the quarterback's ankle, he got rolled up on an offensive lineman. And, that's kind of, for a bettor, it's kind of, you get really scared because, he's laying on the ground. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if he, broke an ankle, he tore his ACL, or he just can't walk. So now you're thinking, oh, okay, so now the backup quarterback's got to come in the game. You're like, oh boy, my worst nightmare at this point for any bettor. But luckily enough, the kid, he was gonna fight that. I think it just ended up being like an ankle injury, but he ended up going into the injury tent and ended up getting his ankle heavily taped. So I was gonna see how when he came back in the game, how he was gonna be able to move. He wasn't very mobile, running the ball wise, because his ankle was obviously not feeling good at all. So I was like, okay, so let's see how he's gonna throw the ball. So he couldn't really step into it here and there, but I think he was just healthy enough to where he can win them the game. And obviously you saw in the fourth quarter when game was tied at 20-20, they get to stop, get the ball, drive the field, and end up kicking a 33-yard field goal or 34 or something like that. I think it's one of those two. And ended up winning the game 23-20, which ended up covering the 2.5 spread, which is really spooky for a little bit. You don't know what was going to happen, or but a dub is a dub. We take it. We went 2 for 3 on this weekend with my college picks, which I'm pretty happy about, because college is pretty tricky sometimes because you just never know when something crazy happens or a miracle happens. You just don't know. So you got to just pray at this point. You just, come on. But, so now in the next segment, we will be talking about my NFL futures when it comes to, NFC division winners, AFC division winners, NFC champ, AFC champ, Super Bowl champ, and then we got some extra picks as well as MVP, Offense Player of the Year, Defense Player of the Year, Offense Rookie of the Year, and Defense Rookie of the Year. When it comes to the individual picks, I will just be doing individual picks when those come. And also, too, I will be giving out 3 picks for each individual award. So that way I'm not just giving you one and then it's just kind of you just got to just get lucky at this point. I don't want to be like that. I want to give you guys some options when it comes to picking these individual awards, so that way you at least have somewhat of a chance of winning one of these or hitting one of these. So I was like, okay, let's just do 3. Be perfect for that category. So division winners, we will be starting in the NFC when it comes to, we are starting with the NFC South, which is the Bucks, Falcons, Panthers, Saints. So the winner I have for the NFC South will be the Tampa Bay Bucks, because I think they're obviously the most experienced group, most experienced quarterback. Offensive line's pretty experienced. Defense, you got the head coach is probably the most experienced out of that group as well. And I like Baker. I like Baker a lot this year. I think this is going to be his best year offensively when it comes to passing yards and passing touchdowns because he's got so many weapons. I know Chris Godwin won't be back till like week 6, week 7, but Jason Light, the GM, obviously knew what was the situation with Chris Godwin, and because sometimes Mike Evans as well. He's been in and out of the lineup when it comes to injuries, when it comes to like hamstring, ankle, etc. with Mike Evans because the last couple of years he's been hurt and missed a couple of games and stuff like that. So that's why they drafted 2 receivers and Emeka Buka out of Ohio State, and you got Tez Johnson from Oregon, who's crazy because he's the lightest NFL player ever drafted, like 155 pounds, which is absurd, crazy. I never thought a 155-pound receiver could make an NFL, but it happened. And I'm also excited too for the Bucs because Bucky Irving, he might have a spectacular year. He's gonna definitely get more of the carries, more than Rachaad White. Rachaad White's still great running back too for the Bucs, but Bucky Irving, I think he's gonna have a 1,000-yard season and like 10+ touchdowns would be my guess because I think he had a great rookie year last year and he had half the snaps. Him and Rachaad White split the snaps, but I think he's gonna get like more like 75% of the carries this year. So look for those numbers to take off. And then the defensive side, you still got Vita Vea, you still got Levante David, you got Antoine Winfield, you got Jamel Dean, they drafted 2 corners this past year too. So because they've had some injuries in the past with the corners and safeties and stuff, and so hopefully the Bucs, all those guys can stay healthy in the secondary and make a run for it. And my second place will be the Atlanta Falcons. I like their roster too overall. With like when it comes to the offense, you got Bijan Robinson, I think he's up for offense player of the year. I think he can have one of those years where he can burst out for 12, 14 plus touchdowns just because he had a good year last year, but I don't think he didn't get the end zone as much as I thought he would. But I think this year he's going to double what he had last year coming into this year. You still got Michael Penix. It's going to be his first season where he's going to be starting week 1. So I'm very curious to see how he's going to, get a feel of it being a starting quarterback week 1 and then progressing week in, week out for him. Because they got the coach. Raheem Morris is a very good head coach for the Falcons. I think he's going to have a great second-year head coach for them. So I'm looking forward to that. Because I also think, too, with their offense, besides the running back, they do have weapons on the outside. They got Drake London, they got Darnell Mooney, they got Kyle Pitts. So they got some weapons. They can score some points. And I think, Michael Penix is going to have, I think his line is set like at 19.5 touchdowns. I think he's going to throw for more than that because I think he just has too many weapons. And they threw a lot last year. Even Kirk Cousins, he only played 10 games. I think he had like 18 touchdowns thrown last year. So I think with the full season playing, I think he'll get to that mark and even more with them. The defense is pretty solid. They still got Jesse Bates, but they did lose their starting tackle and it's what's his name? Big boy. He went to the Bears, but he's number 97. I think it's like Jared Allen. Not Jared Allen. It's something. I don't remember, but I know he's a starting tackle that signed with the Bears this past offseason. So very curious to see how their defense is going to look. I think their offense will save them in some games where they might have to outscore some of their opponents, but I think they'll still be the second best team in the NFC South. And then third place, I have the Panthers. You still got Bryce Young, third year. We'll see how much he improves on. And they did go out. They drafted the receiver at 8. That kid from Arizona. He's got like a weird name. It's kind of hard to pronounce, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They drafted him pretty high in the first round. And they got Leggett, receiver still, but they did trade Adam Thielen today back to the Vikings. So offense line's pretty solid. They got their left tackle. They paid their guys in the offense line. So they'll have a pretty good offensive line this year for them. And then running back, they got Chuba Hubbard. He had a he had a great year last year. I think he's gonna get better this year too when it comes to numbers. So look out for that. Defense is okay. I mean, I don't really expect much from their defense this year. I think they'll still be like middle bottom tier when it comes to their defense. I think they'll make some plays, but I don't think they're gonna like win them a lot of games. But you never know. So, but that's for the Panthers. I have them third place. So, and then obviously I have the Saints last in the division. New head coach. You still got Spencer Rattler, but he's not like a franchise quarterback. They drafted that Tyler Shaw this past year in the second round. So, I mean, if Spencer Rattler doesn't play well, I will not be shocked if he's thrown in week 8, 9, and the Saints are struggling. Unless they're just trying to not play well, tank, try to get the first pick, second pick, whatever. We'll see. I mean, they still got a couple pieces in the defense with Cam Jordan and Mario Davis. He's been there for a little bit, but otherwise, I think they're still young receiver wise. Chris Olave and Shaheed is pretty. Those guys are pretty good, solid. Some guys, one of those guys might be a Pro Bowler. Chris Olave, I would say, would more likely make a Pro Bowl before Shaheed, but that's all going to come down to the quarterback play for the Saints. But I don't think they're going to really make a run for the division, so that's why I have them fourth place. Now, next up, we have the NFC North, which is the Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears. And I have the Lions winning that division because I love Dan Campbell. He's hard-headed, but he likes to play aggressive. Everybody loves him on that team. They always talk, give him credit. They always praise him with all the players and stuff. I like their offense. Jared Goff, he's had a great year last year. I know his playoff performance wasn't the greatest when he threw a couple picks in that game, but I think this year he's going to play better, even put up bigger numbers for him as well. I mean, this offense is star-studded. I think they're going to go crazy this year. I think they might have 2 1,000-yard receivers this year with Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams. Those guys are crazy good. They're still young stars, Pro Bowlers, maybe. At least Amon. Jameson could be a shot in the dark with him, but he could get there. And you got the 2 backs, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. Those guys are just pound and ground. They just go. They're gonna have a great year. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a star. He's great in the passing game. He's great in the run game, screens, all that other stuff. David Montgomery is more like a third down back, but he can still get you those long runs. Definitely not explosive as Jahmyr, because Jahmyr can hit the home runs, but I think David Montgomery can get you those goal line touchdowns and short yard situations. So I like their offense a lot. Their defense, I think it's going to be the same thing as last year. Really good, but with Aiden Hutchinson coming back, I think they're going to be really good. I think he's going to be 15-plus sacks this upcoming year because his level of production the first 5 weeks of the season, he was going nuclear. He was going insane. So I expect him to put those kind of numbers up, but in a fully healthy season. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays. Their defense is pretty good too. You got Joseph at safety, who had this leading interception leader with 12 or 13, which is asinine. It's how hard it is to get even 6 picks in a season, even at any secondary, corner, safety, whatever. But he had 12. He had double digits, which is rare. It rarely happens. I mean, you might see it every 5-10 years, but it can happen, but just doesn't happen as often. So, Lions, first place. I have the Packers in second. Jordan Love's still there. Josh Jacobs, running back. They got Matthew Golden and other receivers there that are going to be pretty solid for him. I think just their overall team, because they've been together for a little bit now, the defense is really good. I know they released Jair Alexander at corner, but I think they're still pretty solid everywhere else. Xavier McKinney, great year last year too at safety. I think he was a huge addition to the defense, and I look forward to him having kind of the same year he did last year. Maybe not as many picks, but he could still get to that number again this upcoming year. Same with the Packers. They'll still win 10 games this year plus, I think, still too. Because that division last year, 3 teams won 10-plus games. So I have the Packers in second place. In third place, I have the Vikings. With the Vikings, it's kind of a tough draw because, you got J.J. McCarthy, didn't play last year, tore his meniscus or ACL, one of those two. So he didn't play at all. So he's got no experience. I mean, you still got Justin Jefferson, obviously one of the best receivers in the NFL, and they go in today, trade for Adam Thielen, so they got another weapon there. They got T.J. Hawkinson at tight end, so he has weapons. The offensive line, I think, is going to be better this year too, because they drafted Donovan Jackson at guard, which is a huge need for them this past based off last year, because I think he gave up a little too many sacks when it comes to the interior offensive line, so I think they addressed that in the draft this past year. So I think they're in that range of like the 8-9 wins when it comes to like their season, which is not a bad season when it comes to like a first year starting quarterback, which that's great. I think it's successful. If your quarterback who's playing his first season, like rookie or not, I still consider him a rookie because he didn't play last year. But if he wins 8-9 games, goes above 500, I think that's a pretty successful year, and that team could have a bright future down the road. But I think it's still a little early for the Vikings to, beat out the Packers and Lions. But I'm not saying they can't, but I think their quarterback with no experience, it's going to be a little tougher for them this year. But I have them third place. And in fourth, I got the Bears. Obviously, new head coach, but, it's Ben Johnson from the Lions, offensive coordinator last year. You got Caleb Williams, you got DeAndre Swift, you got Romain Duze, you got DJ Moore, and you got the kid out of Missouri this past year at, receiver playing. And, I think their offense will definitely... offensive line looked solid in preseason. They look way better than last year. But I think Caleb Williams is, he's still learning. But I think Ben Johnson being there is going to help him out. Obviously, look at Jared Goff the past couple of years with him being there. It's just ascended. He blossomed in that system. So I expect the same. I think Caleb Williams would be better with the ball with not, turning over as much. But I'm still have some questions about the offensive line. I'm very curious on how they're going to look this year. But I think when it comes to scoring points, I think their average from last year will go up this year when it comes to points and be more creative with offensive play calls and stuff like that. That's what Ben Johnson did for the Lions this past year. So excited to see that. And then, but yeah, I got also too with the Bears defense. I think they were solid too last year. I think they'll be solid this year again. I think they're still a couple pieces away of being like a mid-tier defense or above mid-tier, but I like their young guys over there. They got some good. Devontae Sweat. He's over there. You got the Jalen Johnson at corner, who's like your solidified cornerback one. Good defensive end, decent defensive line. Good linebackers, you got Edmonds in them over there, and then safeties. Get the kid from Penn State that they drafted last year. I think it was Baker is his name. But I think they're still a little young to win that division as well, kind of like the Vikings with the quarterback situation too. So I have them fourth place, Bears, fourth. Next, I have the NFC East, which is Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and the Giants. I do have the Eagles winning the division because, a lot of the guys are coming back. I know they lost Darius Slay. They didn't lose him. I think they just traded him to the Steelers. But Eagles offense, everyone's coming back. Jalen Hurts, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. Offensive lines, like everyone's coming back healthy. I know Dickerson, he got hurt. We'll see how he's going to be when the season comes around. I don't think he's going to play week 1. He might sit out week 1 and play week 2 potentially, but I know they've been talking about that as of late. And you got Saquon Barkley. I mean, arguably the best back in the NFL this upcoming year. And the defense, probably one of the best defensive line in the NFL. One of the best defenses, if not the best defense. I know they lost Sweat on the edge, but they drafted that Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, so I think he might end up taking over his spot. So he's a young player, but he played pretty good at Alabama. Had good numbers there, but you still got Jalen Carter. You still got Jordan Davis. You got Jahad Campbell now over there too as well. And you got Zach Bond. You got Cooper DeJean. You got Blankenship. You got Quinyon Mitchell. And Keely Ringo might be a name to look out for corner, because I know Cooper DeJean probably would play nickel and a lot of corner too. So he's gonna be moved around everywhere. He might play some safety. He might play some corner, nickel. He might see him everywhere on the defensive side of the ball. So I do have the Eagles winning that division, and I have Washington coming in second place. I think that division is gonna be pretty tight when it comes to this year, because you got Jaden Daniels' second year. You still got Dan Quinn as a head coach, and I mean they trade away Brian Robinson to the 49ers. Last week. So you still got Austin Eckler. You got the kid. You got the rookie that they really like. A lot of upside on him coming up this upcoming season, and they got talent on the outside. You got Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. You got Zach Ertz at tight end. So very explosive offense. I think a lot of people are doubting Deebo Samuel because everyone's like, oh, he's out of shape, blah blah blah, this and that. I go, he's looked like this for the past, his time in the NFL. He's looked like this, and he's been explosive. He's like a big running back playing receiver, built tough. You could put him in jet sweeps. You could put him at running back. Slot outside, but he's just a dynamic playmaker. And you got Scary Terry on the other side too, who they just re-signed for 3 years, which is a good deal for Washington. For him, 3 years, $96 million. So I think it's kind of a steal for him to stay there. I don't think he was gonna get traded or anything. They always do that to just try to get more money in the contract when it comes to stuff like that. So defense is solid too. They got a lot of guys coming back. Basically the same roster on defense. They got probably one of the best duo linebackers, and when it comes to their defense with Bobby Wagner and Vatu. I don't know how to say his name, but it's like some crazy name. But I know. But yeah, I think they'll be really solid on defense, like really solid, because Dan Quinn's a specialist. He's known for his defense. So I'm very excited to see how they're going to look this year, and could make a run for it. So I'll look out for the Commanders, and then third place had the Cowboys. I think there's too many question marks. Like, I know you got CeeDee Lamb, but you got George Pickens. He could be kind of inconsistent sometimes catching the ball. He drops a lot of passes, but he could also make fantastic plays on the outside for them. And you still got CeeDee Lamb, playmaker, running back. I don't know about the running backs. The running back room, I don't feel confident in the room. And you still got Dak Prescott, but he's just, I don't know, new head coach too. I don't really feel confident for the Cowboys winning the division and even making the playoffs this year. I just don't. And Micah Parsons' situations is so weird, because Jerry Jones they keep going back and forth. He doesn't want to talk to his agent, blah blah blah, this and that. So I think it's just too much going on, too much drama over there. I mean, it is the Cowboys, so what else do you really expect for America's team? So whatever. But I got the Cowboys in third place, and then Giants fourth. I think the Giants' future in the next 2-3 years, I mean, they could be looking at second place in this division at some point. I know they're going to start Russell Wilson to start out, but I do like Jackson Dart a lot when it comes to this receiving core. Like, I know he didn't play with them a lot with Malik Neighbors and those guys, like Jalen Hyatt and them, but they got a really good offensive line and great playmakers on the outside, and they got Brian Dable as a head coach. I think they're gonna have a better year overall when it comes to the offense, like numbers wise, because you got more veteran quarterbacks now. I mean, you got Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, who's so funny. He's so funny. It's just he's just comedy show on the sideline with him. But and then when it comes to the defense, they're pass rush. They might have the best front four in the NFL this upcoming year. And I'm not joking. You got Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and you got Abdul Carter that they drafted as a top 5 pick. So they're gonna have a good. I think they're gonna have a really good defense this year. Up front, secondary, a couple question marks there, but if they can get after the quarterback, it's just gonna make it easier on the secondary, because I think they're gonna cause some havoc when it comes to the run game and passing, because they're just like, you can't really if you double team one of them can get to the quarterback. It's gonna happen, and I think it's gonna be pretty tough for anybody who faces them. So, but yeah, Giants 4th place, Eagles winner, NFC East. And then lastly, in the NFC West, which is the Rams, 49ers, Seattle, and Arizona. I don't have the 49ers winning it. I have the Rams winning it. They've won it before. Matthew Stafford's, he's back and healthy. You got Sean McVay. You got Kyron Williams at running back. You got Puka Nacua. You got Devontae Adams now, so Puka Nacua doesn't have to worry about getting double teamed. Now you got Devontae Adams on the other side. You got Tyler Higbee. Pretty good offensive line. So I feel pretty confident with them winning the division, because I do like Sean McVay a lot. And I do like Matthew Stafford a lot, and I think he's the best quarterback in the division. And I mean, the Rams almost took out the Super Bowl champs, and the Eagles in Philly. If it wasn't snowing, I think that's a different game potentially. I'm not saying the Rams have won it, but they were close, and they played them tough. And I love their defensive line. You got Jared Verse, Brandon Frisk, Byron Young. You got all these guys who are studs. As you know, they were young rookies last year, or second year guys. So I like their defense a lot. Linebacker play is pretty good. Corners are pretty solid. Safeties are pretty solid. So I think the Rams do win this division as in the NFC West. And then second place, I have the 49ers. Brock Purdy got his contract. Big contract. I'm just, the one thing I worry about the Niners, the reason why I have them second place is health. When it comes to the health, it's like, can their offensive line is one of the oldest offensive lines in the NFL. You got Christian McCaffrey, who's on and off of injury. I think he's going to have a healthy season this year, so I think he will have a bigger impact than he did last year, because, he had that heel injury, which was such a weird injury, because he was like, oh, he's out for 4 weeks. Oh, now he's out for 8. Now he might miss the whole season, and he came back for the Buffalo Bills game, and it was like the worst time, because the weather out there was like the worst. It was like snowing and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. Also, too, the receiving core is not very healthy when it comes to over there, because usually they have like Jawan Jennings, and they traded away Deebo Samuel, so he's not there anymore. And you got Brandon Ayuk, who's out for at least 4 weeks into the season. So I'm a little worried for Brock Purdy's receiving targets when it comes to this season. So and the offensive line staying healthy as well. So so I have a little bit of question marks with them, but I think they'll still be a really good offense. I think Christian McCaffrey will, like I said, will have a big impact this year, unlike last year. So that's for the offensive side. Defensive side, I think they'll still be really good with Joey Bosa, um, Mikael Williams that they drafted from Georgia. He's gonna be a really good player, I think, too. So him and Bosa on each side will be a dynamic duo for them. And then you got Fred Warner, really good back. Oh, I forgot about George Kittle too in the offense. That's kind of my fault. George Kittle is still there. So, but back to the defense. Secondary solid. Lenore, number 2 corner. I think he's gonna be pretty solid for them too. But I'm just overall. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's still there as well. But I'm just like I said before. I'm just a little concerned with the injuries for the 49ers this upcoming year. I'm not saying they're gonna everyone's gonna get hurt or the star players gonna get hurt, but it's like that's been the trend for the last couple of years with this team, or at least last year with this team. So 49ers second place, get Seattle third. New quarterback Sam Darnold. I think he's gonna have a solid year. I think he's gonna have the year he did last year. I think last year he had just a better overall team and just better group. But I mean, he still has Jackson Smith and Jigma, and and now they added Cooper Kupp from the Rams. So I'm very interested to see how that duo works with, those guys are kind of like the same receivers, just one's a little bit older, one's, third-year guy, Pro Bowler. And the offensive line's a little shaky. I'm not really, they're an average O-line, so I'm a little worried when it comes to Sam Darnold on that, because he fumbled a couple of times last year in some critical games that he had lost in those games, including the playoffs. And then defense, I think they'll still be solid. You got Leonard Williams, you got Devin Witherspoon, you got just other guys who have been there for the last and Worland at the other corner as well. So I'm very, I think they'll be an average defense. I think they'll get after it a little bit. They'll mix up some play calls to get some turnovers this year, but I don't think they're gonna be anything special. I think the defense could win them some games this year, but I think they're gonna be like a 8-win team, 9-10 this year, which is still not bad, but it's not like a playoff team, I think, this year. And then lastly, Arizona. I don't really believe in Kyle Murray as a franchise quarterback, because he's been there now. He's had guys, he's had dudes. He's got James Conner, he's got Marvin Harrison Jr., he's got Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, I would say, and some other weapons. But he's just so inconsistent when it comes to making those NFL throws, and sometimes he doesn't see the field well. I don't know if that's just play calling from the head coach, or that's just him not seeing the field well. But it's just for them, I just don't feel confident in Kyle Murray ever, moving the needle for this team to be a playoff team. I don't think like I said, he has the weapons, but it's just I don't believe in Kyle Murray. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's got a couple more years, not in the league, but just on the Cardinals, and they might have to, see what's coming up in the draft, or maybe look for a trade, because he has a big contract too. They say it sounds like a huge deal, which I didn't really agree on, but I guess this is the market for quarterbacks. So, the offensive line's solid too. Paris Johnson, they got a new O-line coach from Ohio State, Josh Fryer. So I'm very curious on how the offensive line is going to look this upcoming year. I think they were pretty solid last year, but I think Kyle Murray just made too many mistakes and turnovers, which cost them a lot of games. And I don't see them really doing much this upcoming year as well. That's why I have them 4th place. So now we will be moving to the AFC Conference. We'll be starting out with the AFC South, which is the Texans, Jacksonville, Colts, Titans. I have the Texans winning the division. You still got C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins. I know they lost Stephon Diggs. He signed with the Patriots, and Tank Dell's out for the year, obviously with the injury, but that's why they went out and drafted the 2 receivers from Iowa State. So they got those fill-in spots. They got a little bit of depth, but I know they traded John Minchie to the Eagles. this offseason, about last week, I think, is when they broke the news on that. But, I believe in C.J. Stroud. He's won 2 playoff games in his first 2 years in the NFL. One as a rookie and then one as in his last season. But the only thing I'm worried about with the Texans, kind of the same thing when it comes to talking about with the 49ers, is like they have a little bit of an older group of offensive linemen, but they did give up like the second most sacks behind, I think Caleb Williams is first in sacks, and then C.J. Stroud was second. And they had Laremy Tunsil last year at left tackle, but now he was traded to the Commanders. So I do worry a little bit with C.J. Stroud when it comes to the offensive line and giving him time to make those throws down the field and getting his receivers the ball during games. But you still got Joe Mixon too, but he's also a question mark too now when it comes to injury. So we'll see how that pans out. But I still like their defense as well with Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, Henry To'oTo'o at linebacker, Bullock at safety, Derek Stingley at corner. So I think their defense with DeMarco Ryans as a defensive head coach, I think he'll get them situated. I think they'll get to that 10-win mark, which is just enough, I think, in that division to win it. So that's why I have the Texans winning the AFC South. And then in second place, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence will have a better year, but the one thing he has to work on is not, forcing those passes. And, he had a lot of turnovers last year when it comes to interceptions. I think he led the league in interceptions last year, and you can't have that with that team. I know you got the new head coach that came over from the Bucs, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. They got talent. I mean, Travis Hunter, you got, he's going to be playing both sides of the ball, but he's going to be playing receiver too as well. Brian Thomas Jr., you got, Travis Etienne at running back. So he's got a good offensive line. Give him some time to throw the ball. But if he can cut out the turnovers, I think it'd be a battle though between him and the Texans winning that division. But it's just Trevor Lawrence, he has to keep the turnovers down. If not, they will not win that division and they will lose. They will probably have the same record as they did last year. So defense is solid. You got Josh Hines Allen, not Josh Allen. You got Trayvon Walker at defensive end as well. Corners, solid. I mean, Travis Hunter's going to be going back and forth. So I think it's going to be a crazy dynamic with him, with Travis Hunter playing both sides. I don't know how they're going to, work his load when it comes to playing both sides. I think he's going to be playing more corner this upcoming year because I think they're going to need it more on defense because I think they have decent weapons on the offensive side. So I think he'll definitely come over and play that as well. But I think corner is going to be the bigger need for him. So, but I think that's why I had Jacksonville second place. Third place, I got the Colts. I think everyone thought this upcoming year that Anthony Richardson would be the starting quarterback, but the reason why he's not because this is the inconsistent play, inconsistent. His accuracy is not there, and I think he's having trouble reading the defenses. In preseason too. So I think with him, he's still so young, and they started him at such a young age for quarterback. I think what the Colts should have done is sat him for a year or two, kind of what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. I'm not saying Richardson's Mahomes, but I think the recipe that they used for Mahomes, I think they should have sat behind, I think Philip Rivers or Rex Ryan was there, and then this past year he started. I think Joe Flacco was there too for a stint. But I think this is good. I think this is a great opportunity for Anthony Richardson to sit behind Daniel Jones. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is a superstar, but he's been in the league for a little bit of time now, 4 or 5 years, I think. Now with Daniel Jones, it might even be longer than that, but I think this is a great opportunity for Anthony Richardson to sit behind Daniel Jones, learn from his mistakes, and just take the year off. Unless obviously Daniel Jones gets hurt, and then he obviously has to step in. But I think this would be a great learning curve for him, and we'll see what happens. I'm not saying he's a bust or anything. It's still too early to predict that he's a bust, but hopefully the Colts learn from this and they take this opportunity to help this young man learn the quarterback position. So I think he's a super freak athlete. I think he's got potential, but these guys just let him grow. And offense, they got Josh Downs. He got hurt later in the year, but he was an electric player on the outside. Michael Pittman still. They drafted Tyler Warren out of Penn State, who's, I think, in my opinion, the best tight end in the draft. They got him like mid first round pick or like in the teens. And then Jonathan Taylor, he had a slow start to the year, but I think he found his groove later in the year. So I think he'll have a better start to this year's season than he did last year, and I think he'll have 1,000 yards and, like I said, and like 8 touchdowns, 8+. I think he gets in the end zone more. I think he fumbled a couple times last year, which I think he's a vet, so he can fix that and fix those mistakes. Defensive side, I think they'll be good. I think they just had too many injuries last year, and now they're back healthy. But you got DeForest Buckner. You got what's his name? One of the linebackers. He was a Pro Bowler, I think, last year. I forgot his name. He's not. I know his number. It's like 44 Davis or something like that. I don't know. Don't remember, but. Franklin, that's who it is. It's Franklin, and he's one of the top 5, top 10 linebackers. He led the league in tackles last year, I believe. It was either him or Raekwon Smith, but I think they're still young on defense too. They got vets, kind of like the Saints. You got vets. You got a couple of key guys who've been there in the system for a little bit. You still got young rookies too in that. So I think overall, I think they're the third best team. Obviously, that's why I have them third place. And fourth place, I obviously have the Titans. Cam Ward, first overall pick, quarterback, rookie. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got Van Jefferson. He's got at running back. He's got Tony Pollard and those boys too. Marcus, it's like Spears as well. So, very curious to see how they're going to look at an offense. To get pretty solid offensive line, though. I think because, they weren't really projected on offense because the quarterback situation last year wasn't the greatest for them. Obviously, that's why they had the first pick overall. But I think Cam Ward, he's definitely up, for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure. I think he's going to put up numbers. Obviously, he's going to make mistakes, and that's what a lot of rookies do. But I think he's going to be their franchise quarterback for sure for, from now until, whenever he's done playing. I think he's their guy for sure. I think he definitely showed flashes in preseason of what he's capable of playing in the NFL. So very excited for his opportunity to start at quarterback for them. Defense, again, good defensive line, but I think they lack talent everywhere else. Not saying like they're not great, but I think a lot of them are just average secondary and average linebackers. But I think they'll definitely have a better record this upcoming year than they did last year. So that's just what I think, my personal opinion. So Titans fourth in the AFC South. And now I have the AFC North, which is the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and the Browns. I have the Ravens winning that division. I mean, they're like explain the Ravens roster. I mean, it's probably the best, or top two, if not one roster in the entire NFL. Lamar, Derrick Henry, you got Xavier Flowers, you got, DeAndre Hopkins. Older DeAndre Hopkins, but I think he still makes a little impact helping out with, Zay Flowers out there at receiver, Mark Andrews. Offensive line's one of the best in the NFL. Obviously, defense, stars everywhere. Raekwon Smith, Kyle Hamilton. Just, Humphreys on the outside. Now you get Jair Alexander from the Packers. So, look out for the Ravens this year for sure. Dangerous team. Dangerous. And that's why they're my winner. Obviously, it's just, you got John Harbaugh, head coach. He's been there forever. And I think there's just had the most experience in that whole division. Overall, Derrick Henry, obviously top 3 back in the NFL. So it's hard. It's just they're gonna be so hard to stop offensively because they're so dynamic everywhere. So and the defense is just loaded too with talent everywhere. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary. So watch out. I have the Bengals second place. Obviously Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You got Gesicki coming back. And, their offense is going to be so explosive. They might be one of the more highest, points per game NFL team this upcoming year. Offensive line was definitely shaky last year. The left side's fine. It's just when they had the right side was definitely their biggest struggle last year. I think that's why they went out and drafted offensive linemen to kind of get that situation settled down and kind of prevent not as many sacks as this year, upcoming year, than there was last year. So I think they're just trying to keep the pocket clean with Joe Burrow. On the defensive side, they get Trey Henderson back. They gave him a raise in the salary, so he's coming back, so that tremendously helps with the defense. Because if they don't have him on defense, they might not be my second place team, but defense is solid. I think what they need to do this year, they definitely need to create more turnovers in an opponent's territory, so that way Joe Burrow and them can get just keep scoring and just win more games, because the past couple of years they started 0-2. They've always been out to a slow start, and it just doesn't help with this team. This team is too talented to start out 0-2 for the last 2-3 years. They are just, Joe Burrow's way better than that. They got so much talent. So, but I'm pretty excited for their team. Joe Burrow, obviously, up for MVP. Of course, I think he's definitely a candidate to win it for sure. I think because he had numbers last year, but his team didn't make the playoffs and they didn't have a great year, team overall record. So, but yeah, that's my take on the Bengals. Second place. Third place, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think their offense is going to be okay. I know they got Aaron Rodgers, but he's been kind of going downhill slowly with, I don't know how he's been playing. I know he's older. I know he's 42, 41, whoever, how old he is. But he's still Aaron Rodgers. He can still make those plays and stuff. But, with the Steelers, you got 2 solid backs, 2 running backs. You got decent receivers with DK Metcalf and what's his name? Short guy from Memphis. He's number 9. Oh, Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin, short little receiver. They got tight ends. Darnell Washington's huge target. I would not be. They need to use him in the running game. Obviously, the run block, but also passing game. He's such a mismatch when it comes to. Nobody's gonna be able to cover him. He's 6'7", 280. So if he doesn't get that many targets this year, then it's just gonna be such a disappointment with him. Don't even put him in the field. Leave him on the sideline. But I mean, obviously, Mike Tomlin, he's always been the most consistent coach in the NFL. He hasn't had to lose a season in like 16 years. First season, he's been in position to make the playoffs or just win enough games to be above 500. I think the defense is gonna have to win them some games. And you got Darius Slay, you got Jalen Ramsey, you got Joey Porter. You got TJ Watt back on the contract, which is huge for them. You got Cameron Hayward. You got other guys they drafted, and like Jack Sawyer. You got Highsmith. So very curious to see how the defense is gonna be. But I think what their defense is gonna win them games 100%. So I can see them winning, like being that that 9-8 team like they've always been the last couple of years. Just good enough to get to 500, but just not good enough to make the playoffs. That's just my take. That's why I have them third. In fourth place, the Browns. Obviously, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Joe Flacco, quarterback. Offensive line's fishy. It's been all over the place. Their left tackle they drafted, that Jedrick Willis. He's not there. He's gone. Not their left tackle anymore. Their interior offensive line is great, but I'm worried about their tackles protecting the quarterback, especially when a Joe Flacco, who's in his late 30s, if not 40, playing quarterback, he gets hurt. Now you got to bring one of the two young guys. I know Dylan Gabriel was listed as quarterback too, but I mean, we'll see. I don't really have faith in on really receivers or Jerry Jeudy. He's good, but he's not gonna win you games. I mean, the running backs, they get Dylan Sampson. We'll see what Quinshon Judkins is with his whole contract thing. I think he'll end up getting a deal done, but he's had too many legal issues. But I think they'll have a good running back duo, young running back duo, but I'm just worried about the offensive line and quarterback spot for the offensive side at least. But when it comes to the defense, I think they'll be like they've always been, above average defense. You got Myles Garrett. Now you draft Mason Graham out of Michigan, a D tackle at number 5. You still got Greg Newsome. You still got Denzel Ward. You still got Grant Delpit at safety. So I think they've always been a above average defense, which their defense, like I said, for the Steelers is going to win them some games. Sure, where they're going to have to cause turnovers, get some touchdowns as well in defense to go score some points. So Browns, 4th place. And now we move on to the AFC East with the Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. I had the Bills winning it. I think it's a pretty obvious pick. Josh Allen, former, reigning MVP. You sign James Cook back. You got, another backup guy as well. 22. It's like Tay something. I don't remember his last name, but he was pretty good backup for them as well when it comes to like goal line, like running plays and stuff for them. Offensive line's always been great. Josh Allen's had plenty of time, and obviously they got Curtis Samuel out there at receiver. They have Dawson Knox. You got Dalton Kincaid. You got Keon Coleman. So I'm very I think Josh Allen can not easily, but he's definitely contention of winning MVP again with this team. I like the defense a lot too. This upcoming year they add, you got Joey Bosa came over. You got Ed Oliver in the middle. You got your linebackers. You got your corners. So I think they'll definitely create more turnovers on the defensive side, because I think they didn't do that as much last year. But I think this year they'll definitely get after the quarterback, force some interceptions, and I think this team can go a long way when it comes to like win the conference and potentially win the Super Bowl. I think they're that type of caliber of a team to do that, so I'm excited for that. Patriots 2nd place. I do have the Patriots 2nd place. Mike Vrabel, I do really like a lot. With his time with the Titans, did a pretty good job with them over there being a playoff team. Even with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, he still, you know, coached that team to the playoffs. And they had Derrick Henry in them, but still, to take Ryan Tannehill to to the playoffs is, it's success. I think it's a pretty successful job that he did over there. But now he's at the Patriots. You got Drake May, second year. I know there's a lot of high expectations for him this upcoming year. I think he's definitely have a better year for this season. And I think, they got some good weapons over there. He's just signed Stephon Diggs at receiver. You draft the running back, Trayvon Henderson, he looks like he's going to be a really good back for them. I think Mike Vrabel really likes him a lot. They did use him sometimes in the run game, but I think what's going to be effective for Trayvon is definitely the passing game. If you can see that, he's very dynamic in running game and passing game, and he could run and he could pass block, which is going to be huge for Drake May. Definitely, you got Stevenson still too over there as well. He's like get you some yards for the first down, short yardage situations, goal line, stuff like that. So I can see them doing some damage on the offense this year. Now, like I said, Drake May into their second year. I think he's going to have better year when it comes to stats. And I think he's going to, I think he'll go for, like that. I think a lot of these thresholds are, like, they're holding these quarterbacks to, like, 18-plus touchdowns. I think he does get there. Barely. I think it's more like towards the end of the year, which he get. But I think he gets there. I think he gets second place in the division. I think their defense is pretty solid too. So I think Mike Vrabel will get that defense right. He's more a defensive guy. So I do like the Patriots second place. Miami. Mike McDaniels, I think he's in the hot seat for this upcoming year when it comes to his job with the Dolphins. I think he's had too much talent on that team to where they've only won one playoff game with the talent. I think Tua, he's just been hurt too many times, which I know that's probably hurt Mike McDaniels when it comes to, coaching that team and not having your starting quarterback in the lineup. So, you still have Tyreek Hill, you still got Jalen Waddle. You still got dynamic. You got Devin Anchey at running back, who's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. So I don't get, what he's trying to, do over there. And play calling is just like, I don't know. I think he's not putting Tua in the right situations when it comes to certain, times of the game. I think he's just not making the right calls and, turn the ball over or just not the right play call. It's just, I don't know. I just don't feel confident in the Dolphins this year. It's gonna be close between them and the Patriots. I think it's like a toss up between second and third. Like, you could probably flip flop those. And the defense, I know they traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. Now he's coming back to his former team, but it's like, can they stay healthy in the D-line, like Bradley Chubb and Phillips, at the defensive end as well. I just concerned with the health on the defensive side. So Miami, third place, and last place I have the Jets. Mike Lynn's first year as a real head coach for the Jets. I think he has a lot to work on for the offensive side when it comes to Justin Fields. Like, I do like Justin Fields, but I think there are times where he does hold on the ball too long and decides to take off too early as well when the play doesn't. He's not letting the play develop sometimes, I feel like. So he gets too, rambunctious, and he decides to just take off instead of just waiting for the play to let it work out. And then if it's not working, then you want to take off. But I think he's still young. I think he could still make some plays for them, definitely in the passing game. Because you still got you got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall. He's a pretty good he's kind of a threat in the passing game too. So we'll see what happens with them on the offensive side. Offensive lines, I think, will be better this year. So I mean, we'll see what happens with them. Defensive side, I mean, you got Quincy Williams, you got his brother as well, who plays linebacker for them, Sauce Gardner. So they do have key pieces. They have guys who've been in the system, but we'll see how they translate to this upcoming year because you got a different head coach and basically the defense coordinator as well, who is the head coach. So, but I have them in fourth place. Not because they're going to be like a terrible team, but I just think the quarterback play is not going to be good enough to where they can get into like that second, third, or even win division. So, and then the last division, I have the AFC West, which is the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. I do have the Chiefs winning that. Obviously, it's really not a debate. Mahomes, Pacheco. I think Kareem Hunt will be back for them. You got Travis Kelce. I know Rashid Rice. He did just get suspended for 6 games for what he did last year or last offseason. But, I mean, you still got Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, Pacheco, and those other guys on the offensive side. Offensive line's going to be good, obviously. Draft left tackle, your potential franchise left tackle, and Josh Simmons as the last pick in the first round. So that will probably solidify the left tackle for the future for the Chiefs. So, but yeah, I'm not really worried about the offense. But obviously, Mahomes, Coach Reed over there, so not really stressing about the offense. Defense, obviously, you got Carl Laftis, you got Chris Jones, you got Trent McDuffie. So, again, just good overall defense, great overall defense. I'm not really too worried about defense either. There's not really much to talk about. It's pretty self-explanatory when it comes to defense. So, first place for the Chiefs. I do have the Broncos second place. And the reason being is, one, they were a playoff team last year with Bo Nix, Sean Payton as the head coach, and their defense. Let's talk about the offense. Offense, this upcoming year they're gonna have J.K. Dobbins, and McLaughlin as their two backs. They got Cortland Sutton. They got Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's coming over. And they got some other little small playmakers too on the outside. Offensive line's steady, pretty solid, really solid offensive line. Bo Nix had a really good year for a rookie. I think he's going to elevate this upcoming year with, the team. Sean Payton, kind of drops in game, but even get more creative with the offensive side of the ball as well. And the defense, number one defense last year in the NFL, I think that's what's going to take them to where, they are, I will say this, as my sleeper to win the AFC Championship, or at least get one of the teams to be there. I think the Broncos could get there this upcoming year. I know that people are like, oh, how can you even say that? They didn't beat the Bills last year. I'm like, oh, well, first off, rookie quarterback, Sean Payton's first year working with him as well. Now you got year 2 with Bo Nix, who's going to start out a full year. And I think their defense was so good last year. I think they're going to be so good this year, too. I think they had the potential to upset some of these teams, forcing turnovers. I mean, you had the reigning defense player of the year in Pat Surtain. So it's just they have so much talent everywhere on the field. So Denver Broncos, second place. Sleeper team to make it to the AFC Championship this year. So look out for the Broncos. Chargers, I had third place. Definitely, I think they still could be a playoff team, even as a third place team. But, Justin Herbert, he's been solid. I'm not going to say he's been great. He's had maybe a year he was great, but I think with him he's been so inconsistent when it comes to like those NFL throws that are like 10 to 20 yards. That's where he's thrown the most picks. I think that's where he's struggled the most. He's good at the deep ball, he's good at the short passes, but he struggled in those NFL throws, like I said, to 10 to 20 yards. And then, I mean, they're going to be really good offensively, like dynamic-wise, when it comes to Keenan Allen. They just got Bad McConkey, they got Omarion Hampton, the rookie running back out of North Carolina in the first round. And then you got Najee Harris, who will be back, should be back for this season. And then the offensive line, I know you got Joe Alt at right tackle, but then you lose Rashawn Slater at left tackle for the season. So I'm worried when it comes to the left tackle on how they're going to be this year, because that definitely hurts. You just signed him for that big deal, and then he gets hurt. So I'm like, but even though, I mean, I think like I said, they could still be a playoff team, but Justin Herbert in the playoffs, he just doesn't perform well. In his 2 playoff games, he's just turned the ball over too much. I think he gets too greedy sometimes. He makes too many plays with his feet, and then he tries to force too many passes, which causes turnovers. So I don't know. I mean, they still can make the playoffs, but I have them as my third place team. Like I said, defense is solid too. Derwin James, Khalil Mack. You still got them boys on the outside too. So I'm very curious how the defense is going to look. I think they'll be solid too, but I think they're going to be a third place team in the division, third place. And then fourth place, Raiders. I think the Raiders will obviously be better this year than they were last year. I think they upgrade the quarterback with Geno Smith. They have a better head coach. Not saying the head coach last year wasn't like great. I think he was just put in a bad spot when it comes to the team, overall team wise. But now you bring in Pete Carroll, he's got a lot of experience coaching, obviously with the Seattle Seahawks and his time in college. But you draft Ashton Genty as like your running back one. Obviously, you got Brock Bowers, and you draft the receiver Beck, and offensive line's solid. I think they'll be really good this year. But I think they do, like I said, they do have the playmaker in Josh Bowers or in Brock Bowers, but I think they still kind of lack a little bit of production on the outside. I know they got Jacoby Myers, but he's kind of like in the middle of like a situation where I think he requested a trade, so we'll see how that pans out and see if they'll end up getting traded or not, or if he's going to stay with the Raiders. Defensive wise, I mean, you got Max Crosby, who's the headline of that defense. We'll see, though, because, I mean, they were okay last year, and I just don't. They'll probably be like more like that mid-level tier defense, maybe just a little bit below average defense. But I think they'll definitely win more games this year. I think they'll get to like that 6-7 threshold when it comes to wins. I think Geno Smith is definitely an upgrade from Aiden O'Connell, even though he got hurt. But I think him just being the quarterback alone will win them a couple more games. But it's just, I mean, they don't have enough playmakers yet to get to that third or second ranking in that division. So I have the Raiders fourth. So that concludes with the division winners. This other topic I'll be pretty quick on because the video's going to be pretty long. So my NFC champion, I have the Lions. In the AFC, I have the Bills win the championship. So that will lead it to a Lions-Bills Super Bowl. And I have the Bills finally get it done. I think Josh Allen finally gets over that hump because he's been cursed. He's had the worst luck in the past 5 years or so in the playoffs. And I think he finally gets it done. I think his MVP definitely, he's all right. Well, I can win MVP. I think this is my year that I can get to the Super Bowl and finally get past Mahomes if they do play him. But Bills, Super Bowl champs. And then, last but not least, I have my individual awards. We'll start with MVP. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to give out 3 picks per award. So, my 3 picks for MVP, I have Joe Burrow, I have Jaden Daniels, and my sleeper MVP pick, even though it's my third pick, my sleeper is Baker Mayfield, MVP. Sleeper. We will now move into Offense Play of the Year. In this, I have Jahmyr Gibbs. I got Bijan Robinson. And then I think this receiver, I think because he's like their obviously receiver number 1, obviously for this team. But I think he's gonna get a lot of production because he's gonna be the biggest target on this team. I have Nico Collins as my third pick for Offensive Player of the Year. I think he was hurt a couple games last year, but he still had a great year. It was kind of like a Chris Godwin, when Chris Godwin before he got hurt, like he was having his trajectory when it comes to receiving yards and stuff was going to be like through the roof. So Nico Collins as my third pick for Offensive Player of the Year. My 3 candidates for Defensive Player of the Year, I have Aiden Hutchinson. I think he's the favorite because I think based off last year, he was going to probably 15, 16 plus sacks for sure. So definitely be lookout for Aiden Hutchinson. Max Crosby, I think if he stays healthy and plays the full season, I think he'd also get to that threshold of what Aiden Hutchinson can be capable of as well. And my third and final pick, Jared Verse for the Rams. Second-year player. I think he had a pretty good rookie year. I think he had like 8.5 sacks, 9 sacks. I think he gets to that threshold of like the 13, 14 sacks this year. Maybe more. We'll see. But I like him as well as like a little bit of dark horse. My 3 picks for Offensive Rookie of the Year, I got Ashton Jeanty, running back for the Raiders. I got Travion Henderson for the running back for the Patriots, and I have Emeka Egbuka, receiver out of the Bucks, is my 3 picks for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And last but not least, my final award picks are the Defensive Rookie of the Year. I got Abdul Carter, defensive end out of the Giants. I got James Pierce Jr. out of the Atlanta Falcons. And my third pick, I like Jahdae Barron out of the Broncos, rookie corner. I saw him play in a lot of games last year for Texas. Lockdown corner. I think, with him and Surtain being on the corners, I think he could be a dynamic corner, get a good amount of picks, like a couple picks, 3 or 4. I think he can get there and make a lot of plays. But yeah, Jahdae Barron as my last pick for Defense Rookie of the Year. And so that concludes this video. And I'm definitely looking forward, to the NFL season. But again, that was pretty fun. And hopefully these picks, you guys take these picks and put a bet in. Have some fun with it. It's what's nice about these bets too is that they're season-long bets, so you don't have to worry about week in, week out when it comes to these kind of bets. So it's long-term, so it's even more fun. So you basically, watch every game. It's like you got to wager on every game. So, thanks for watching, and that will conclude another video of CK Picks.